Hello. Our application is called Splitmate. Our team name is called Bias. Our members are Idenia Ayala, Ann Huang, Sergio Prestigui, Byron Wong, and Evan Liang. So for our app, it's basically a Splitmate is a web-based application designed to help roommates manage their shared living responsibilities in an organized, transparent, and less stressful way. By providing an all-in-one platform, Splitme addresses issues enabling uh, users to track shared expenses, manage bills, pay and payment deadlines, delegate and log the completion of chores, maintain an accessible history of actions for accountability. That way, everybody is accountable for their own things, and we know who's pulling basically their own weight around throughout the household. It, I would say this project is pretty relevant because it targets a widespread of relatable issues among communal housing, and it's fairly efficient in managing responsibilities with those you live with. It not only helps household functions move more smoothly, but also helps improve relationships. That way, you're everything's clear and open and transparent among groups, and you don't have to really go more than just like your general stuff for roommates, and there will be less conflict between each other. So for our methodology, through interviews with potential users, we're able to establish an outline for what our project needed. With clear goals in mind, we can establish a list of all the necessary implementations of our projects, focus on what real roommates needed, kept the design simple and clear, as well as making sure it works as intended. Uh, we built this in three steps. Basically, we didn't have much time, so we just wanted to get the basics working. We had implemented important features and tried to make it look as best as possible, so it had an easier, simpler UI. Um, for system requirements, we identified key requirements through talking to possible stakeholders and used their feedback to make a practical and easy to use app. We separated these requirements into priority levels and functionality. In this manner, we could deliver a better product in its initial phase. And you can see on the chart on the right, you can see we had certain requirements that we had listed, and what how uh, it was, if it was the functionality type, if it was functional, non-functional, and then for each of these requirements, we established a priority level. So you can see for our user authentication, we it's clearly a functional type of thing, and we clearly we need users for each thing, and this is pretty high in the priority. And next, basically what this app is, it's a group creation and management, so this is another high priority task. And then we have expenses and chores, which is also basically what our main focus for the app is, and that's also set to high. And then we wanted this data to sync with users, that way everyone who's in the group can see what's being updated and completed. And then we also wanted to implement a running balance per user. That way, it would be easier to track bills and stuff. And then for our medium priority levels, we have a notification system. So this is important for the app, but it's not as important as the core features that the app needs. So this notification system clearly is going to be helpful for everyone, but it's not as high as the core features. And then the activity log, just so you know, you can have accountability of who's doing what, who completed what. And then for multi-platform portability, it's not really a functional type, it's just different porting. So it's be best to include this. Set it as medium. It might be even like low, but I think medium should be something we should try to focus and implement. And then last thing is UI usability and system uptime. Those are all pretty important, but not as important as the other things. Um, and you can see like we're trying to use like Google authentication, which is also an option, and then users group creation management. Every most group apps will have to have something like this. But for right now, we have general just uh, account creation, but we also have the option for Google authentication. And then next, for system design, we designed Splitmate around three main concepts: user interface, what the user sees and interacts with; web pages for sign-in; group dashboard; expense list; chore list; and activity log. Second is application logic. The brain of the app manager manages user actions, calculates balances, sends notifications, and logs activities. And third is the external database system, where all the data is stored securely in the cloud, which is the users, groups, expenses, chores, and activity logs. And we kind of just for our system design, we first started off with different um, diagrams, block diagrams, sequence diagrams. For example, we had a block diagram which it demonstrates how users interact via the web app UI, which sends requests to the backend, and the backend handles authentication, and the app logic for users, groups and expenses, and enforces roles and permissions. And then we had sequence diagrams for how the user authentication works, how the group creation works, how you add expenses, how it responds to the web client, and then the API, and then notification reminders and log activity. And then next was the class diagram, which was separated by users, groups, tasks, expenses, and balance. And it's pretty much it for our system design. That's kind of how we planned everything and set it up beforehand. And yeah, let's move on to the next one. So for system testing, the objective of the testing plan is to check that Splitmate's core features such as expense tracking, and notification systems are able to function properly, are easy to understand and use, and are sufficiently secure. So some of these testing things are feature testing, checking that all things like signing in, adding expenses, and marking chores work like they should. Integration testing, making sure all the parts, the websites, the app logic, and the database were working well together. Usability testing, asking some friends and classmates outside our group to try it out and tell us what was confusing or didn't feel right. And then we also were making sure that security checks were in place, make sure only logged in users see their group data. That way there wasn't any unnecessary viewing from third parties. And then we also wrote down sample test scenarios for each feature. For example, we signed in with Google, create a group and remove users, added and edit expenses, assign chores. And then there's also non-Google logins. So we tried that one, and you're also able to authenticate your email, and it does send the email to your inputted email. And then that is it for that one. Next, let's go with the challenges that we faced with this assignment. So I would say the main challenge for this project was the time constraint of 1 month to finish this. For the most regular academic sessions, we barely start talking about the final project around like the 1 month mark. Like around like the first month, it's basically just kind of like getting into it. Like you're barely about to get into the project's scene, or you're like barely doing initial project requirements. And this one we had like, at first it was really spread apart, so it wasn't too bad to handle. So using like the new UI, it wasn't too bad to handle. So it wasn't how do you say, it wasn't very difficult. But then as we started getting closer to the end of the 4 or 5 week session, the projects were getting back to back, so we really had to focus on getting it done. And then Basically, the solution for this one was we really had to figure out how to create something that works and is useful while sticking these time constraints, because it we might not be able to get something that's great, but as long as we can establish the foundation for something and get it working, I think that's what was important for this. And I'd say one of our main challenges, especially for me, was using a new UI framework, which was Flutter and a language, Dart. It's not too different from what we're used to, but it's not something I've worked with before, so it was kind of a learning curve for me. And what really helped was having group members that have used the framework and assisted us with any problems that we might have, which was really helpful. They really came in for us and helped us. And and what really helped us the most was dividing everything into chunks. Not like all of the focusing on trying to get everything done right away. It's like I was really helpful how we were able to plan everything out. It did seem a little stressful, having to not see the final assignment, like what everything needed to be turned in. But I mean, we knew what needed to be completed, so at least we knew what had to be done, and then we were able to, as a group, come together and focus on what needed to be done for this assignment. So for this, in the conclusion, through our work on Splitmate, our objective was to solve a common problem: how to make a shared living more organized and fair to everyone. We learned that many roommates struggle to keep track of bills and chores, often leading to stress or arguments. In creating a single app where roommates can see what needs to be done, who has paid what, and what decisions have been made, we believe we've taken a big step towards improving the experience of living with others. Our main recommendation is to continue improving Splitmate by adding more ways for users to communicate and customize their experience. I think we've created a solid foundation for helping roommates. Everything has been developed pretty well. We we as a group see like it tremendous potential for it to see further development. For example, we could add in built-in messaging for commenting features on chores and bills. It would help clarify questions directly in the app. That way, users wouldn't need to rely on other apps to chats talk about specific issues. That way, everyone knows what's going on in the household. Um, Pretty much in the household, like anything that might be related to it. I'm sure that many people in that household would like to see what's going on, and I think that way um, you stay as a community together in your own household. And for personal matters, of course, you can use your own messaging apps, but for this, I think it's best for everyone to be informed and understand what's going on. And then something else would be like offering more ways to split bills, like percentages or custom amounts for unique situations. For example, there might be a repair that needs to be completed, or there might be um, a party you want to plan and everybody wants to get together and set it up so that way everybody can be understand how it's being separated, and not that no one's being taken advantage of, or and nobody's paying more than they should or less than would be fair. And something that we could add that would help tremendously would be like in a more advanced scheduling tool, like having ability to set a monthly or weekly recurring chores automatically. And then on top of that, have it sync with personal calendars like your Google Calendar, Apple Calendar. And maybe not even, this might not even just be for roommates. It could be for office spaces, general family app. Like say you might not live with them, but we can create this app to have like kind of like have a place where your family can communicate, set up meetings, group family outings, somewhere where you can all stay together. And it might not, it's similar to a group chat, but there would be a lot more functional features that would expand from a general just group chat, and then it would help you. So these recommendations pretty much offer a clear path towards improving Splitmate by keeping the focus on what users need and value. They also create opportunities for the app to expand into new areas, reach a wider audience, and stand out in a competitive market. By testing the app in real households and making changes based on feedback, we can make sure Splitmate truly delivers on its goal of making a shared living easier and less stressful. In summary, this is a solid foundation, and with continued improvements, I'm sure we can develop it a lot further. And that'll be it for our presentation for Splitmate. Thank you so much. Have a good one.